Okay, I told you last time I would try to get you some information on Ian DeBose. Um, Ian is going to have some tests run the middle of next week, and then we'll see where we're at. I don't know anything more than that, other than the fact that he is going to have some tests run. Like I said, middle of next week, and then we'll see what the results are and go from there. It was great to have him back on campus. Tariq's back. He got back Sunday. Looks like he's lost a few pounds, which doesn't surprise me considering that neither one of them can do anything. And, that'll be an issue for Ian, when and if he is cleared, that he'll have to get back in some type of, condition. And he hasn't done anything since basically Thanksgiving weekend, which was a long time ago. I think North Carolina, they're going to cause us some issues with their size. They really offensive rebound the ball very well. They're very fast. They're really good in transition on makes and misses, and we're going to definitely have to get back and then defend the post and then rebound the ball. They're going to try to pressure us kind of like Duke did, get after our guards, make it hard for us to enter the ball. We'll have to be able to drive the ball and make plays, make the right plays, which, in transition, we didn't do a very good job of in the first half against Virginia Tech. I'd said it, I think, after the game that no disrespect to Virginia Tech, but they shouldn't have had 9 block shots in a half. And as you can see, they didn't have any in the second half, and we shot 51% because we quit driving in there out of control and playing off 1 foot. We started playing off 2 feet, shot faking, getting under control, getting them off the ground and making plays. And that's something that we work on every day, which was disappointing to me that that happened in the first half. That doesn't mean that every one of them was that, but to get 9 is a bit of an anomaly, in my opinion. And so, but credit to them and to Virginia Tech and the way they defended the rim. I thought we did a really good job going back and watching the film defensively. We were pretty connected the entire game. Did a really good job on Cone and Aluma. Didn't do a very good job on Radford, who's a good player, and Gasson ended up hurting us, making some shots I guess we probably didn't really expect him to make, but give him credit. And Virginia Tech did what a really good team does. They just find a way to win. Maybe when you don't have your best night, and when they're averaging eight made threes a game, we held them to 4. That's a game that we need to win. And we just didn't find a way to win it. And I think that's kind of what they did. And so we move on and get ready to play Carolina. Go ahead with your questions.
Steve, going off that initial point about Ian, I don't know, can you tell, does that provide some bit of excitement to him? Is it still too soon for him to be excited? What's kind of his gauge on?
Ethan, I'm sure he's excited. I didn't really ask him, but, he's always been very upbeat. You got to remember now, these are young guys. They feel, they don't feel unhealthy, right? I mean, they don't feel like me every day getting out of bed. Thank God. Yeah, I'm sure he's excited. Now, I don't want him to get his hopes, way up there. And then if something, I don't know what's going to happen, and he doesn't either. So we just got to wait and see. But I'm sure, he's excited to get this opportunity to hopefully at some point get back on the court. I'm pretty sure he doesn't like coaching yet, and that's all he's been able to do. And he's been a really, he's a good kid, man, and he's been helpful to the guys. And I think it's been interesting for him at times to see it from a different lens. I'll say some things and maybe hard for the team to hear during practice. And then I'll look over at him and he'll be like, shaking his head like, yeah, that's what I see too. So maybe we all need to kind of go through that sometime, not necessarily be sick, but or whatever's going on, but just have a chance to get a different view of practice and games. Maybe that'll help him some.
Steve, given how assertive he looked and how much of a ball mover he looked like in the first 2 games, How much have you missed him in the last 6 games?
Whew, a lot, Connor. I thought he was our best overall guard. Just not. I'm not just saying talent. Strength, experience. He can drive the ball. And like it really hurt us. I thought, against like Georgia Tech. Where he would have gotten those gaps, and he could make plays for himself. He can make plays for others. And I think that's a great thing. He gives us a bigger perimeter defender too. We're not overly long and lanky on the perimeter, and he gives us a guy that can guard the other team's best guard. Now we've had some other guys step up and do that. I mean, Davian has done it. I mean, Davian's playing. I didn't even realize he played like 39 minutes against Virginia Tech. I mean, I probably played 24 for me, last year, but we're asking him to do a whole heck of a lot. And I think some of that has to do with Ian being out, so, yeah, I miss him a lot, and hopefully we can get him back.
Coach, we've probably asked this a lot, but what are you seeing in terms of the psyche of your team in practice? Are they still pretty upbeat and positive working with you right now? Or do they see that their work is paying off, paying dividends?
Yeah, that's something we always got to be mindful of, win and lose, right? Because even when you're on a winning streak, you tend to get a little relaxed, and so I think as a coach, you're always on edge about something like that. I thought we had a really good practice yesterday. They came in there, created their own energy. I didn't have to get them going. They were communicating and talking, and I think they're a little tired. I think the Sunday night games, are a little bit harder, because you play later at night, and then you turn around, come right back Monday and have to play practice because you got this game coming up. So, but I thought they had really good energy. Now, the other side of that is Saturday was not good, and I wasn't very pleased. And it's a credit to our scout team of Miles Lester and Grant Van Beveren and Blake Buchanan and J.R. Mathis and Quadre Adams. We play like a scout game, where the scout team runs the other team's offense, and maybe they go back and guard, the way that Virginia Tech, let's say, we're playing them guard. Well, they were down. The scout team had them down 22-3. Now, was that an indication of how we played Sunday? No, we played a lot better, and that's a credit. But we weren't ready to practice, and I didn't handle that very well. But to their credit, they bounced back. And so what I'm saying is they have the resiliency and the confidence in themselves and each other to bounce back. And, we've been close. I don't like that. I know they want to win just as bad. So it's not like they're coming in there beat down because, people are just blowing us out. It's not happening. We're right there till the end. And so we got to finish. And, it's kind of like the old analogy of it's not just one. You can't just put your finger on one thing. You stick your finger in the dam and then another hole blows over here, right? I mean, and so you just kind of got to go at the end of those games, you got to make those plays. And so like Monday or Sunday night, we had a couple wide open threes we need to make. We had a couple rebounds that we had to get that we didn't get. Now we got the majority of them, but when there's a fine line between winning and losing, and which it's going to be for us like that all year long, then you have to make those plays. We just didn't. And it wasn't for a lack of trying, and it wasn't for a lack of playing hard. Those guys were exhausted after the game. I think they gave, everything that they could, but it just didn't happen.
Coach, when there is a disparity in size, like what you're going to be dealing with tomorrow night, what are some ways you can minimize that and try to close that gap?
Well, I mean, I think depends on their talent and what their skills are, and for instance, like North Carolina's guys, they're great offensive rebounders. So you better have a body in between them. And so you definitely don't want to full front those guys because they can throw it over the top, go get it, dunk it. They can, if you full front them and try to deny them, then when the ball goes up in the air, you're out of defensive position to block them out. And so I think we have to keep bodies between them and the basket. How do we do that? We can do it one-on-one or we can double. We doubled Aluma some. You can do it two different ways. You can do it from the gaucho. You can do it big to big. Now it's not like these guys aren't talented enough to throw out of those doubles, and it's not like they've never been doubled, and they're tall, and so they're going to be able to see over the double. But we'll have to mix up coverages. It's like a really good pitcher, unless it's just Nolan Ryan. You don't just throw a fastball, for 7 innings or 9 innings. At least I didn't. I had to mix it up. And I think that's kind of what you have to do. When you can, you got to give guys different looks. Same thing with the ball screen. We did it with Carlick Jones. We switched, we hedged, and then at the end we iced, and it really kind of bottled him up. Finally found the right thing. And I think that's probably the same thing with those guys. I think the other thing with Carolina's bigs is they really truly run the floor. I think some people talk about it, but they don't do it. Those guys, man, they're out there running like guards, and so we're going to have to get back. And our bigs are going to have to get back because our guards aren't going to be able just to stay in there forever and guard those guys. You're going to have size on bigs on bigs, guards on guards.
But to follow, real quickly, you're talking about doubling Aluma. Is that something? It's pretty easy to look at how dominant he's been with Virginia Tech and think, okay, that's a guy we might want to prepare for doubling. Or is that something that happens during the game? Because with North Carolina, they don't really have a clear guy. It might be Baycott one night, it might be Brooks another. Is that something you do over the span of a game? Oh, we need to handle this. Yeah. This is a problem.
Yeah, no question, Josh. I think like with Aluma, we went into the game ready. We started out in what I call monster the post. Now, I don't typically do that. Usually I make you earn that. Like there's been a lot of times over my career I've been prepared to double and we never had to. Okay. So to answer your question, yeah, I think you have to really be ready to do it, be ready to adjust. Like say, Garrison Brooks also, he's just wearing us out in there. We're going to have to change it up. And maybe can't play him one-on-one in the post, or, we're never going to play anybody just truly one-on-one in the post. We can dig out the perimeter too, but are we going to bring an extra defender? That time will tell, and some of that will have to do with, but it also has to do where you guard him and how deep a position that he gets. If he's burying you underneath the basket, then there is no double because they ain't going to get there in time. I had that happen last year against Azubuike. He looks like how many planets are there? Is there 7 or 9? How many are there now? I don't know. Like 10, 9. He's like the 12th planet. Okay. The guy is so big. Like we fouled him. I felt bad. Like he was taking our guys up into the basket and just dunking the ball with our guys hanging on him. Like, look, kind of like Shaq. Maybe playing with some kindergartners, and that's, if they get that deep of, and here's the thing about that, we were down 5 with about 4 to go. We just couldn't guard him. He's a monster. We could hack a Shaq, because he couldn't make free throws. But see, that was the problem. We couldn't even foul him because he just dunked us in the basket, and my point is you can't let them, they can't get buried in there. They've got a whole these slew of guys coming at you, and so you got to be able to beat them to the spot and do your work early in the post the best that you can.
Steve, is the sample size now large enough and the competition large enough for you that you feel comfortable knowing that your team is really good at creating steals? I think you're number 6 in the country right now on KenPom. And if so, what is leading to that? What are they doing well to create those steals?
Well, first of all, to answer your question, I think we do have some good film, and obviously, we've played pretty good competition. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you guys would know better than me. Is anybody in the league played the gauntlet that we just played? I mean, maybe they have. I don't know. Probably not. And somebody probably will at some point. I think that's part of being in a great league, right? There's probably years that maybe there's 6 or 7 teams ranked, so you're going to catch a part of your schedule like that. I think a lot of that is, how we defend, the way we teach defense. And we don't press. I'd like to with the right team, I shouldn't say the right team, just different personnel. You can probably press, but being in the right spot, and I think, I think you could use, Virginia Tech as an example of that. They're hard to drive on because those guys are in those gaps and they are strong and they're stripping and ripping. And that's basically what, I teach our guys to do is if the ball's, on the wing, there should be 3 eyes guarding it. The guy guarding it and the other guy in one gap and another guy in another gap. You guard the ball. You guard ball and man. And see ball, the whole thing, and butt to the ball, belly to the man, and you're stripping and ripping with your inside hand. And when they put it on the floor, and the ball should never split 2 defenders, and most of the time, sometimes scouting report dictates different things, and I think that's a problem. And maybe our defense gets that way a little bit during the years. You teach this aggressive style of defense, right, all the way up till the game start, and then all of a sudden you do more scouting report, and then maybe sometimes your defense gets a little more contained or a little more flat than what you want it to be based on personnel. I try not to get that way. So really, your position is your help. And I always tell them, and it's funny, we told them this yesterday. I always believe if you just keep a body between somebody and keep pressure on them, eventually they will give you the ball. You don't have to reach and do those things. You'll wear them down to the point that they'll give it to you. They'll drive it in there and lose control. And you saw it happen Sunday night. And so that's kind of without fouling. That's important. And so I think that's something that it's encouraging. I didn't know we were, ranked at. I don't really, I pay attention to that sometimes I don't. But I do think it's important for you guys to understand that it's important for us to keep a body between the ball and the basket. Those shots are a lot harder to make than uncontested shots, right? I mean, that makes sense. And that's what we're trying to do is keep a body, contested shots, keep somebody in front and then go rebound it. And, we've had our issues rebounding, but we seem to have fixed it, the other night. And a lot of that was I thought it was just play hard, right? Just effort, like just go and get it, and I thought our guys really concentrated hard on that, probably because I was beating it in their head. No, but I was proud of them for that.
Steve, I don't remember the exact phrasing you used a few minutes ago, but you're kind of hitting on the point that the margin of it being a win or a loss for you guys, like it's going to be tight kind of all year. Is that something that you start establishing with those guys, like when you started finally getting the chance to work with them, or is that something that's coming up more right now because they've seen it a few times?
I think it's probably more something you kind of got to go through, Ethan. You can talk about it, but until you experience it, it's probably they maybe don't totally understand, right? And so that's why game experience, is really important. That's why as coaches, we always want to play an exhibition game. We want to do a scrimmage, and and we want to play our non-conference games because we want to work through these issues before we get to the meat and potatoes of your your league play, and especially in the ACC when you got 20 league games, right? I mean, I've never had 20 league games. Of course, I didn't get 20 because we had COVID, but so I think, yeah, to answer your question, I think it's something you tell them, right? You put them in the toughest situations that you can in practice, and you show them and you teach them with film, but until they actually experience it, game pressure and game score pressure are different in games. And, that's the one thing we haven't done in the second half is put score pressure on the other team. Like we've gotten to 1 point or a tie or whatever, but we haven't got the other team down 5. Where now those shots get a little tougher for them because they're behind. And that's a whole different kind of pressure. And that's not something that you can typically simulate in practice. You could try it, and I do, but there's nothing like a game. And then this year's games are different too. Like what would be the atmosphere in the Joel when we just came on 11-1 run on Louisville? Would it be, would it be a little bit harder for Louisville? When we were making that run on Virginia Tech, would it have been a little bit harder? Now, rightfully so, I don't think I'd have been standing at Cameron Indoor Stadium talking to my team in a manner that I'm talking to you right now, and they can hear me. I'm pretty positive of that. Virginia, there probably was no way I could communicate with my team that way. I miss that. I think the players do, the thrill of running out of the tunnel, and just having, that atmosphere is hard. But, you try to create that, but it's just hard.
Roy said yesterday, excuse me, I don't think anybody in college basketball has dealt with the issues that you have. And Chris Mack and Mike Young have kind of said similar things in the last week too. I'll just put it this way. Is this the most difficult season you've had as a coach now that you've had, as Ethan said, this wide of a sample going through it?
Well, my first year as a head coach, I got chicken pox. At the end of the season, my mom thought I had chicken pox when I was a kid, but she obviously lied to me. And when my daughter, my newborn, got it, I stayed home with her. Let me just tell you something, boys. As an adult, you never want to get chicken pox, all right? And so I missed the last 2 weeks of the season. I came back for the last game and got tossed. I was in a very good mood. Have you ever had chicken pox in your mouth? Yeah, okay, well, I have. This season, I mean, how could it not be? How could it not be? I mean, first of all, it's not just basketball, it's the whole world going through a pandemic. And I appreciate those guys saying that, but I don't know that that's true. I mean, we're all dealing with a whole different set of circumstances. And I don't really know, like my friend Chris Jans. I mean, think about this. He's in New Mexico State, and he had to leave the state of New Mexico just to play basketball. And so he's taking his team over to a hotel in Arizona, and they've only played 3 games because they've been there since November because they got COVID, and they're in a hotel, and I can't imagine what they're going through. And so, we've had our tough moments, but we're through it. We're battling back, and we'll look back on this someday probably and be like, man, that was rough. And I think the hardest thing for me personally has just been trying to, establish a program when you can't go anywhere. It's hard, not only just with the players, but with the fans and especially in recruiting. I mean, you think about it is January 19th, and I've never left this campus to recruit for Wake Forest University. We signed 7 guys and never met them. Well, I take that back. I meant Davian, but I signed 3 guys early. The first time I met Carter Witt was in the training room on December 20th after he had committed back in September. That part to me has been the hardest, is that, and so we'll get through it, hopefully. And, those we wear those chips called Connect. What are they called? Connect-In or something? You know what I'm talking about? I always tease the Greg Collins, our trainer. I always say, that's that chip the government's tracking me on. Give me that chip today so I can be tracked. But who thought you'd have to wear something like that to go to practice? I mean, right? In the mask, and I try hard with the mask, but I mean, it's hard to communicate with your players when they can't understand what you're saying, and I couldn't imagine wearing a mask. Could you imagine wearing a mask and having a full arena? I mean, how would you ever hear? It's those things have been difficult, but I think we've all had our issues with it. Ours has just been probably a little bit more than somebody else.
Coach, you mentioned Carter briefly. How would you characterize his ankle the day or two after his first game back? Seemed like he was moving pretty well during the game.
He was, but you never know. Some kids are just a little bit more resilient than others when it comes to injuries, right? And I don't try to ever compare kids like that, because your body reacts different than other guys. And so, I was really surprised, to be honest with you, Les. I wasn't planning on him even, in my mind, even playing, let alone practicing. And he practiced on Saturday, So now he was sick yesterday. He's going through it. Now he didn't have, not COVID. Don't freak out. You got to say that nowadays, right? I mean, he's sick. Oh, he doesn't have COVID. He's going through it. He's here he is. He's playing in the ACC. Games are moving 100 times faster than what he's played in high school. He sprains his ankle. Now he's sick. I mean, it's toughening him up. I can promise you that. But he's a tough kid, and he's got a lot of. What I like about him, and I've said this before, he's very unflappable. Like, his body language stays pretty much the same, good or bad. And I really respect that. I coached Chris Lofton many years ago. Sorry, Les, you guys didn't take him at Kentucky. He's from Maysville, Kentucky. But, he was when he graduated, he had made the most threes in the history of the SEC. But the great thing about Chris was he could miss 3 or 4 in a row, and you would never know he missed them because his body language stayed the same. Then he'd make 10 in a row. And I always used to tell the young guys, you need to copy how he handles success and adversity. And I think Carter's kind of got that in him. He's not out there acting like I can't stand it when a guy makes a play and he acts like he's never done it before. I hate that. Like I tell him, dunk the ball, go back down the court. We got guys flexing, don't even have muscles. So it's I like that. I like his business-like, workman-like attitude, and he's got that.
Steve, I don't know if I've ever heard you tell the story of like how Carter, like when and how he popped up on your radar. Obviously, I know he's a pretty high-touted recruit coming out of high school, but like when did you kind of notice him?
I saw him play going into his junior year. The last summer could be out, I was at East Tennessee State. There was a team camp at Queens College, and BJ and I were there. And we were watching, obviously, other kids. And then I saw this guy with this hair out there. I'm like, who the hell is that? And there was a lot of major, high major coaches on that court watching him. So I watched him for a while, and I thought, he's pretty good. I can see why they're watching. He could really handle the ball and great poise and presence, and he could shoot it. And I thought, yeah, that's a high major player. So that was the only time I really saw him play. And then when I got the job, I don't remember who told me. It might have been my agent. I can't remember. Somebody knew that his dad had gone to school here, Scott, right? And we weren't involved. I mean, just be honest with you. We weren't on the radar. I mean, maybe our name was being mentioned, but we weren't in it. And so he was the first, I think he was the first, he might have been the first or second kid I called. And I talked to him and, his dad and just developed, a relationship from there. It's hard to do that just on the phone. And then, you got to give them credit. They picked a coach they never met. And you have to ask yourself, would you do that if your son was the type of player that his son was, would you trust the guy? Would you say, hey man, let's go play for this guy we've never met? Tough, and so I got to give them a lot of credit for believing in me and believing in Wake Forest. And obviously his dad had an incredible experience going to school here. Carter had been here, that helped. That's the other issue with recruiting, Ethan, is, we recruited, trying to recruit guys that never even been to Wake Forest, and you can send them all the video and all that you want, but it's not the same as coming here on campus. I saw him play going into his junior year at Queens. I didn't recruit him at East Tennessee State because, I knew I couldn't get him. And, but when I got here, I was very aware of who he was, what he was ranked. Not that always matters. And then the relation, that his dad had gone to school here. It didn't make any sense for us not to take a shot. And so BJ did a really good job of, doing the legwork. And then the last month or so, I kind of took over and went at him with his parents. And we were very fortunate to get him.
Is that something you say in his recruitment, the part about, I liked your game a lot, but I just knew you were too good for, you're too good for me to get a hold of.
Oh yeah. I say that all the time. It's the truth. Like, I can't mention names, but there's a lot of other kids that I have seen play. And listen, when I went out recruiting, I had 2 sets of glasses. Okay. These were my East Tennessee State glasses. And then these other ones were my high major glasses. And so if I was watching a kid play like Josh Graham, great point guard, and he's out there just wheeling and dealing and playing great. And I say to myself, if I'm a high major, I'm going to recruit that kid. I'm not going to waste my time at East Tennessee State unless I got a relationship. I'm not scared, but I'm also realistic. The issue is you got to be able at that level to figure out who you can, if you watch a kid and you go, and I say, well, he's kind of close, but I don't know if I would recruit him in the ACC, then I'm going after that kid. See, I think the difference between high major and mid-major recruiting is that high major is not hard to tell if they're good. It's hard to tell if you can get them. That's the problem. I can evaluate high major players. I can walk in the gym and tell you that kid's really good. Wow, that was hard. Can you get him? There's the issue. And with mid-major, it's a little bit more of projection. But you got to be careful in projection because you can project your ass right out of your job if they don't project, and so that's why I'm very involved in recruiting. I'm very hands-on. And that was one of the things I always respect. I respect a lot about Roy Williams, but that was the thing, that he's a dogged recruiter. I think everybody thinks those guys just magically show up at these places. Well, they just don't. They work at it. Example, they won the national championship. I don't remember. I was at Tennessee. And so it was the summer right after, and we were in Vegas. Back in those days, you could be out. They'd have games up until midnight or later. You can't do that anymore, thank God. But it was like midnight at Mojave Junior High or some shit. It was not on the strip, not a main gym, not a main player. So I'm out there hustling, thinking, Coach Forbes is going to get over tonight. And there's 2 coaches in the gym, me and Roy Williams. So I went to him and I said, Coach, you're an inspiration to me as a head. If I ever get a chance to be a head coach, how hard you got to work at recruiting. The man just won a national championship. Okay. And he's out there recruiting like that. tells you something that great players make really good coaches, you know, and I think that's never lost on him, or, you know, all the guys that have had the success that he has had and still having, is they understand the importance of recruiting. And so that was that was impactful on me as an assistant to see him doing that. And I think the other thing for him is just he's never forgot where he's from. And I'm that way. I respect the grind that he had to go through to get to where he's at. He didn't wake up he didn't hit a single and land on third base now. I mean, he went to Carolina. He worked with the JV team. He drove those films and calendars around North Carolina. He didn't just get handed the keys to the kingdom. He earned them. And, you know, I really respect the story. I've read his book a couple of times. I think he's still got the Coke machine or the Coca-Colas in his garage because when he was a kid, he couldn't afford to have a Coca-Cola, so he can now. So it's important to him. It's the same thing with my scooter. I got a scooter in my garage that has a blown engine. It'll never run again. But when I got fired in Tennessee and I went back to Northwest Florida, I couldn't afford another car. So we only had one car, and my wife drove that car every day to teach because we needed the income. So I rode a scooter for a year to work and back, game day, whatever, in Northwest Florida. And, you know, I spent $60-some in gasoline that year because that's what I had to do to get to where, you know, to do my job. And I blew it up because I don't know shit about engines, and I didn't realize you have to put oil in them. But I'll never that scooter will never leave. That scooter will be with I'll give it to my kids. I'll make somebody keep it just to give you the where you've been and where you can be. Not that it's bad, but you need that reminder. And I respect that about Coach. You know, and I met him a long time ago when he was coaching Kansas. I was a young coach at Barton County at the time. And so, you know, and I played him. They had a guy last time I played him, they had a guy named Hansborough, I think Lawson, Ellington, and Wright. They were decent. I mean, they had some pretty darn good players. We played them in the preseason NIT, and this is crazy. We were playing Butler. Gonzaga was playing Carolina, and everybody thought it'd be Tennessee and North Carolina in the championship, right? And we played the consolation. Butler beat us and Gonzaga beat them, you know, in the preseason NIT up in New York. And so our consolation prize was Hansborough, Lawson, Ellington, right? You know, gee, thanks a lot, guys. So I've seen some great teams there.
Without having the correspondence with Wake fans that you would have liked because of COVID, do you think you have a pretty good understanding for what your next two games represent around here, facing the Tar Heels, facing NC State?
Yeah, I think so. I've been a part of those kind of games, you know, my entire career at every level. Even when you're in junior college, like Chipola. I was standing in the line at Danny's Fried Chicken my first year, getting me a couple pieces of chicken for lunch. And this little boy walked up and he said, "Coach, you think you can go over there and beat Chipola?" And I said, "Well, I've been to Rupp Arena. I think I can handle going to Chipola. I'm not going to be too scared of that." You know, Boise State, Idaho, back in when I was at Idaho, that was a big game. That was a rivalry game. I got hit with a baked potato one night. You know, I've been a part of these. A&M, Texas, Rick Barnes with Texas. You know, Tennessee and Kentucky, Memphis. I mean, Wichita.
Hold up, a baked potato?
Well, isn't everybody? Idaho's the potato. You know, that's a big deal out there. So I got smacked when they were throwing them at us as we were leaving the arena because we won. That's a great feeling. I just would have had a little sour cream on it. Would have been nicer. Yeah, I get it. I get it. You know, we had our rivalries at East Tennessee State. Some newer. You know, there's those old ones like East Tennessee State, Chattanooga. You know, the fans. I mean, that's a big game for them. But then it became Greensboro and Wofford. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what you hope. You got those traditional ones, and then you try to go create some other ones by being competitive. You know, and but I get it. I understand it, and I know there's always a little bit different level of urgency in those games, and there is. Now, sometimes I don't know if the kids always. Sometimes you got to tell the players that, right? Now we got a lot of North Carolina kids, so they get it. But maybe some of those other guys, guys that are not from here that haven't been through it, yeah, you might have to tell them, talk to them about it. But we had a rivalry with Chattanooga. And I like rivalries. We won 10 in a row, and that's the way you want to do it. That's the way you want to do that.
Anything else for Coach, guys? All right. I'll wrap you up.
Once you guys ever get, that's 3 days in a row. Sunday night, ACC, radio show, this. Seriously, you can't find something better to do than this shit? I would think so.
That's all we can ask for.
There's nothing better than this.
Stop.
ACC media, next level.
Stop that now. All right, boys. Well, I'm going to go have me a ball practice and head down to. Nice thing about going to Chapel Hill and those places, not very far, so we can get on the old bus and head down there when we're done and get us a nice little good night's sleep. So
7 o'clock versus 9 o'clock. That's better too.
Amen. All right. Hasta la vista.